the MRP poll out last night, said that Reform have gone from expecting to win 0 seats to 18 seats. We're on our way. As I say, it's an opinion poll. We won't obsess about it, but it does show, and I feel this, something is happening out there. We have worried. They're scared. No, I can't say that. maybe later in the pub. I'll use the word I was going to use. Something's happening out there. We've got momentum. We are the conversation around the breakfast table. We are the conversation in the bingo hall. We are the conversation in the golf club. And already millions have said they're going to vote for us, but there are many millions more who just might vote for us over the course of the next week. And it's certainly not been a campaign dominated by personality. The leader... I'm coming to that bit, shut it. The leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition, Sir Keir. I mean, did you watch him on telly last night? Looking like a frightened rabbit, unable to answer a question straight. No one knows who he is, what he stands for. He says he comes from a humble origin, but his uncle owned a castle just down the road from him in Surrey. The story of his father being a humble toolmaker will be exposed also in the next few days. He flips and he flops, and he is absolutely as dull as ditch water, no question. And then we've got Rishi, so energetic, like a teenager who's gone to meet the prospective parents-in-law, trying to do his best and be his best and to be oh so sincere, but coming out with more spin and more dishonesty than any politician since Tony Blair, in my opinion. Slippery Rishi. So I looked at all of this. I looked at these two characters, both of whom might well be competing to be middle managers in a supermarket somewhere, as opposed to national leaders who've got courage and vision and giving us a view of where we need to go as a country and how to tackle tough problems. I looked at all of this. Now, of course, on the 31st of January, 2020, we were in Parliament Square. Our previous speaker and I were in Parliament Square. We'd organised a big event. About 100,000 people turned up. And it was my honour, as 11 o'clock approached, to do the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom! And for me, it was the end of a 25-year journey. For 25 years, from very, very little acorns, I campaigned for us to leave the European Union. And I did it because I believed that the best people to govern Britain were the British people themselves in their own sovereign country. And that was it. That was it. I was done. Retired. It's all over. And now, for the last 4 years, I've been busy helping GB News get launched, doing an evening show, which I've thoroughly enjoyed doing and be proud to be a part of. And I know many around the country have watched that channel and thoroughly enjoyed its output. And I've been in demand. I've been back and forth to America speaking at colleges and universities and to business groups, and that's been pretty cool too. And I haven't had to work on Saturdays and Sundays. I've been able to go fishing and occasionally, pop into the local for a drink or two. And I've been earning good money and life has been great. Last 4 years have been the happiest and most contented years of my life. No media abuse, good income, lots of time off. And so you would really need your bumps felt, wouldn't you? If you were going to upset having just turned 60. And by the way, this week, having for the first time become a grandfather. And yet, I've decided to give it all up and to come back and to lead you in the next political revolution in this country. And we need it because Britain is broken. What works? We've all grown up with an NHS that worked, where we could get GP appointments, and in the dim and distant past, you could even go and visit a dentist. Nothing works. Our public services are failing. Our tax burden is the highest it's been since 1948 in the shadow of World War II. Law and order on our streets is declining very, very rapidly. I was just talking to the manager of one of the hotels in town who told me when she finishes her shift at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, she's frightened to walk to her car. And that's in Boston, Lincolnshire. Let alone the inner cities. Our country is in decline. We are in economic decline. We are in social decline. But we're also, folks, I think, in a sense of moral decline. What do I mean? What do I mean by that? We've forgotten the underpinning. No, your chance will come later, I promise you when I'm done. When I say moral decline, what I mean is this. We've completely forgotten that what underpins everything that was built, fought for, and defended in this country was the basic principle that we are built on Judeo-Christian principles. That underpins everything in our country. And I believe that what matters is family, community, and country. These are the things in our hearts that matter to all of us. And in some way, they're all under attack. And much of this comes from an education system that from primary school all the way through university is poisoning the minds of our young people. Telling them that somehow we are uniquely awful and uniquely bad. You would think we were the only country in history to have invented slavery, when it's been going on for thousands of years and it's alive and well, sadly, in many parts of the world today. Who in our kids has been taught that the Royal Navy spent 40 years driving slavery off the high seas, and the British government spent more money getting rid of slavery than it ever earned from it in the first place? Are our kids being taught that about where we come from? Can you believe that 50% of under 30s don't even know what D-Day is?
Yeah, that's really.
Talking of D-Day,
Doctorate.
I was really honoured to be there. I'd helped with a fundraising campaign to raise £100,000, and we sent 17 World War II veterans back on the 6th of June to Normandy. I was very proud to be part of that, and I'm unashamedly patriotic, as I know all of you in this room are too. We believe in Britain, we're proud of those that went before us, and we want better for our children and grandchildren going into the future. Now, who's seen the film The Longest Day? Yeah. Wonderful film. It's been remade. It's been remade. Rishi Sunak's the star. It's now The Shortest Day. Because he buggered off at half-time, didn't he? Which kind of tells me all that I need to know. So I've come back into this because I believe that the declines that we're seeing can be reversed. They won't be reversed overnight, but they will be reversed if we have people who have courage and conviction, who are unafraid to stand up, to say what they think. But more important than what I think is what the silent majority of this country believe, and yet find themselves at the moment currently unrepresented in the mother of parliaments in Westminster. And that's what this is all about. And I do genuinely have an optimistic vision for the future. And I believe that our contract with the people that we've launched, and we haven't called it a manifesto, because manifesto has an immediate word association with lie, because it always is, isn't it, every time? But our contract with the people, I think, points the way forward. I've said from the start, this really ought to be the immigration election. Why? Why? What do you think about it? From Windrush right up until Tony Blair came to power, net migration into Britain ran at 30 to 40,000 people a year. And then Mr. Blair opened the door. And you in Lincolnshire know more about this than virtually any other part of the country. And by the way, many of those that came in the wake of 2004 are good, decent, hard-working people. That isn't the issue. And every one of you in this room will have friends who've come into the country over the course of the last 20 years. This isn't about being beastly towards foreigners. It's about common sense on numbers and the impact it has on people's lives. So you saw this actually before the rest of the country. But then it was all going to be okay, thank you. At least I got that bit right, or something. But then, of course, it was all going to be okay. Because in 2010, we had a true, new, Conservative Prime Minister. Call me Dave. Became Prime Minister. And promised us, as was mentioned earlier, that net migration would come down to tens of thousands a year. And they promised it again in 2015, and again in 2017, and again in 2019, telling us that numbers would come down. Net migration for the last 2 years has run at 750,000 people a year. Think about this. Think about this. 2.5 million people came and settled in the last 2 years. 1 in 30 people in our country came in the last 2 years. And that puts impossible pressures on our National Health Service. You wonder why you can't get a GP? You wonder why there are new builds here in Lincolnshire on the edge of every village and every town? 50 houses here, 300 houses there. Are they building more GP surgeries? Are they how? You wonder why, in many cases in this county, schools, primary schools are full and parents face 10, 15, even 20-mile journeys to get their 5 and 6-year-olds to go to school. Population pressure. You wonder why young people can't aspire to buy a house, because they're frankly just too expensive against the level of wages. Young people now can't aspire to what their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents thought were the normal aspirations of life. Rents are up by between 20 and 30% over the course of the last 4 years alone. And many working people now spend over half their income, half their net income, on rent alone. We're living through a population crisis. The Conservatives have not only lied through their teeth, but they've broken a contract. And the contract was, we voted Brexit to get back control of our lives. We voted Brexit to get back control of our borders. We voted Brexit to reduce the numbers coming into our country. And in 2019, when I made a very difficult decision to stand aside in areas like this, to give the so-called Conservatives a free run, we helped them get an 80-seat majority. They have completely and utterly betrayed that trust. Betrayed it. And what does Sir Keir have to offer? Nothing. His 6 priorities for the country don't even mention legal immigration. And I could go on. That debate, anyone watched that debate last night?
Yeah.
See, most didn't. Can't say I blame you. It was pitiful. They argued over tax. They argued over benefits. They argued over the boats crossing the English Channel, and yet the more they argued, the more they seemed the same. I was the first person to go out into the English Channel 4 years ago to film and document the dinghies coming across. I warned that you might just as well put a sign on the White Cliffs of Dover saying everyone welcome. I warned that unless things changed, there may well be an invasion. How dare I? How dare I? Oh gosh, what a terrible chap that Farage is. I mean, to use a word like invasion on the BBC, I mean, goodness gracious me. And yet 4,000 boats and 128,000 people later, if it's not an invasion, what the hell is it? You know? What the hell is it? And it's 91%. It's 91. Well, that brings me on to social housing. Why is it that when it comes to social housing, British people get put to the back of the queue in favour of those who've recently come into the country? Why? It's wrong. Surely you put your own family before you put somebody else's. All of us do in our everyday lives. And what has Rishi got to offer? The Rwanda plan, put up by Boris. Every single one of those people who'd been detained, we were told would fly out in late July. Every single one is now out on bail. And half have absconded. Has anyone told you that? Have you heard that before? Well, that's what you get from us. Plain, straight talking. And what does Sir Keir do? When he's questioned last night on it, mumbles and jumbles and stumbles. You see, we need people who are prepared to actually tell the truth. We need people unafraid of being criticised in newspapers and on blogs. We need people to tell the truth. We believe that we will never solve the cross-channel problem until we leave that increasingly meddling court. Yeah. And remember, it took us 10 years to deport the suspected terrorist Abu Qatada. Shows you how impotent we become as a country, and we make it very, very clear, let's finish the Brexit process, let's get back genuine control of who can come, who can stay, or who has to leave. Let's leave the European Court of Human Rights. And allied to this is, I think, our best policy on economics, which is we should, and we can save the money, and we'll talk about that in a moment, we should not make anyone pay a penny in income tax until they've earned the first £20,000. And if we do that, those that earn the least in society will all be better off by £1,500 a year. Good. But here's the important bit. There are far too many benefits being paid out in this country. The imposition the imposition on men and women that get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work, those particularly running their own businesses, acting as sole traders, and many others. Why is it the working population are bearing an increased burden for some who simply will not or do not want to work or are trapped on benefits? And here's the point. You've heard this before, but it's worth reiterating. If you're living on full benefits, but you want to go to work, if you work for more than 16 hours a week, your benefits get taken away. So you're better off staying on benefits than you are going to work. What kind of total lunacy is this? Lunacy. By lifting the level at which people pay tax to £20,000 a year, it's worth getting off benefits and going back to work. And if you do that, you reduce the need for unskilled labour to come in from outside the country on its current course. And we've also got a big agenda for small business. All that government listens to, all that Labour and Tory listen to, are the giant multinationals. You know, it's a world run by a dozen big companies. There are 5.5 million men and women, I bet there are many in this room, who run their own businesses, who act as sole traders. They have been put upon by government after government. Virtually nobody on the front benches of either party has ever set up and run their own business. They don't even understand that this is the driver of real economic growth. This is the driver of employment. This is the driver of tax revenue. We do understand it. I've set up and run small businesses for well over 20 years before I got involved in politics. I mean, in my case, I set up my own businesses because I was totally unemployable by virtually anybody, which won't surprise anyone. But we've got some practical ideas. The VAT threshold is just too low and just too burdensome, and we'd raise it to £150,000 a year. The IR35 rules, for anybody who's self-employed, these new IR35 rules brought in by the Conservatives make it damn difficult for self-employed contractors to get work. We get rid of those. Let's not treat the self-employed as if they're all tax evaders and dodgers. It simply isn't true. Corporation tax on small firms went up 30% last year. 30%, which means less money being reinvested in small businesses all over the country. Believe me, we are on the side of the little guy, the little woman. We will stand up and fight for them against the gigantic banks. Now, I'm not very keen on banks, as well as you might know. And we'll stand up for them against big business, big banks and big government. Support the little guy because we are on their side. We're on their side. Then there's a few of the positive ideas that we've got. Now, in this campaign, we've got reform. We're not perfect. We're a start-up. Yes, we've had one or two of our candidates that have said things they shouldn't have said. In most cases, they're just speaking like ordinary folk. They're not part of the mainstream political Oxbridge speak. And we understand that. In some cases, one or two people have let us down, and we let them go. But compare that to the international price-fixing and betting ring that is the modern-day Conservative Party. I mean, it is astonishing, isn't it? Every day that goes by, we learn of more officials that bet on the date of an early election. This is corruption. This is greed. This is self-entitlement. This is arrogance on a level that I can scarcely believe. And then I look across at a Labour Party that'll be filled with MPs, most of whom have literally no experience of life or the real world at all. And I put this to you. The Conservatives deserve to lose the election. But Labour don't deserve to win. And that's where we are. Now, we, in most of England now, are ahead of the Conservatives.
Yeah.
Not here, but in most of England, we're ahead of the Conservatives. Yet they tell us that a vote for reform is a wasted vote. A vote for reform is a vote for Labour. In most of England, that simply isn't true. In most of England, we are now the challenger to the Labour Party. Here, in this part of England, it's much more neck and neck between us and the Conservatives. But when people are making up their minds, and by the way, I think many in the polls that are expressing a vote for Labour are doing so out of repugnance at what the Tories have done, rather than for any enthusiasm for Keir Starmer. I don't see it. I don't see it. And we know that he wants to take us back and join the European Defence Union. We know that he wants to follow European Union single market rules. We know he has no intention of dealing with legal or illegal immigration. So whether you're potentially going to vote Labour or thinking of clinging on to the Conservatives, my message for the last week is this. I'm asking people not to say, I'm going to vote for these people because I hate them a bit less than the other lot. And think about the campaign. Rishi says, you're going to put taxes up. And Starmer says, you're going to put taxes up. And Rishi says, vote for us. We're terrible, but they're even worse. I mean, well, this is what George Galloway says. It's all so negative. And a lot of this is because of our electoral system, which in time needs fundamental reform, but we can't do that right now. What I am saying to people for the last week is why not vote with your heart? Why not vote for what you actually believe in? Why not get representatives that will unashamedly stand up for the values, and yes, I'm going to use that word, values that make us English and make us British? Why not stand up and fight for those things? Why not say we will not give in to extreme ideologies? Why not say we want to control our borders and net migration running at zero for a few years would be a very good and sensible thing for an overpopulated country? Why not stand up, support a party that says we will not have our kids poisoned when it comes to our country, its history, its culture, and what we represent? Why not vote for a party? Why not vote for a party whose representatives will stand up for family, community, and country, and things that are dear to our hearts? Things so dear to our hearts that those that went before us actually went out and fought and died to defend them. That, folks, is what we are, is who we are. And I'm making a very unapologetic, emotional appeal. Let's vote for what we believe in. And if we do that in sufficient numbers, not only will we establish a bridgehead in that parliament, but we'll also have the support of millions of people out in this country. This is the first big step of what is going to be a mass national movement for genuine change and genuine renewal. If you vote Labour or Conservative, all you're voting, frankly, is for more of the same. All you're voting for, frankly, is continued decline. All you're voting for, frankly, are people who haven't got the courage or the wisdom or the vision to change anything. This is but our first step. If we succeed with this first step, you can be leader in a couple of years, it's no problem at all. If we succeed with this first step, get millions of votes, get that bridgehead into Parliament, we will then fight, not just in Parliament for change, but across the wider country for change. We will organise mass national rallies. We will build up email lists of millions of people. You know, I was told all those years ago, Nigel, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. Britain will never, ever, ever leave the European Union. But you know what? I kept on going. I never wavered. I never stopped. I had peaks and troughs, but I kept on going. It was why the day after we left the European Union in that referendum in 2016, by the way, isn't it amazing that my first grandson has been born on the 23rd of June? I mean, pretty incredible. Quite an omen. And it's why I so much enjoyed getting up and saying in the Parliament that day, when I came here 17 years ago and said I would lead a campaign for Britain to leave the European Union, you all laughed at me. Well, I said, you're not laughing now, are you? And in some ways, what we're attempting here is even bigger. It's even bigger than leaving the European Union. This is about turning around the way our country is governed. It's about a ruling class governed, not governed, but working hand in glove with the media. These guys don't want change. It's a case of I'm all right, Jack, and the rest of you can go to hell, and we don't need to worry about you because you're never really going to cause us any problems. Well, you know what? I think we should cause them the biggest problems they've seen in modern times. I think we should stand up and fight for what is right. I think we have an opportunity on the 4th of July to make the first important step to turning our country around. And I urge you and implore you to join us on that journey, to speak to your friends, to do whatever you can do. Come on. We know we are the silent majority. I'm here up at the front with some great people around me. Please, please help me. Let's make a big breakthrough on July the 4th. And thank you very much indeed for being here.